to another Porsche leading the field around, but a lot more modern iteration, the 997 GTR. Leading this field around, this is the Australian GT Trophy Series. I'm Darren Smith, and Matt Koch, who has been with GT for quite a few years now, caught a lot of these races together. This is a compact field, Matt, but it's the championship decider, isn't it?
Yeah, it all comes down to this race. 50 minutes ahead of us. Scott Taylor starting off of pole, Nick Kelly in second, Dave Stevens in third. Came close to winning the race a little bit earlier on today. Matt Stupas out of P4, Rory Nagara in fifth, and the Seidler Group Porsche of Chris and Luke Seidler will start out of sixth. 6 cars, but we did see a barnstorming race a little bit earlier on today. Scott Taylor taking his first Trophy Series win on debut in the series as well, so not a bad result for him this weekend in the Porsche 911 GT3R. Heads the field down towards the green flag.
Lined up across the front, it's an Audi and a Porsche, a couple of Audis in the back there, but it's Dave Stevens in the Ferrari who did a really good job earlier on today. He looks to get down the inside of Matt Stupas, puts one wheel up on the ripple strip and commands third place in this race. There's Nick Kelly not getting away very smartly through that first couple of corners, but he has for the first time gone back to P3 this weekend. And there's his title contender right behind him in the number 23 KFC Audi. So the Porsche and the Ferrari already establishing themselves quite a good push out in front. But as we saw this morning as well, Matt, these Audis get away a little bit slower than these other cars at the front. We know that they can come on strong at the end. So in the back of our minds, we're always considering the fact that the Audi Customer Sport Racing team have got these cars set up to come to the line as hard as anything, don't they? Yeah,
it tends to take a couple of laps for the Audis to really get the best out of everything, bring the tyres and brakes up to temperature and pressure and everything else. The Porsche is always generally a gun out of the gates. Scott Taylor leaping from pole position to take the lead at turn 1 and 2, but how was Dave Stevens around the outside at turn 2, relegating Nick Kelly back to third place. Scott Taylor from Dave Stevens in front 2, Porsche from Ferrari do look for Nick Kelly to close back in on these two, though in a couple of laps time. Typically that takes 4 to 6 laps for the Audis to really get into that sweet spot, their operating window.
It's colour in just the background, I guess, as far as this is the championship race. This will crown our champion. The 2 cars out in front really are not going to play any part. Once this race is over, yeah, they can get themselves 1 and 2 on the podium. But we cast our eyes to the long game, which really comes down to one race. So it's quite a short game, really, isn't it? It's only a 50-minute game. But these two, which we're looking at on screen now, the Industry R8, the KFC R8, really are the 2 main protagonists that we're keeping an eye on for this title chase at the end of this next 48 minutes.
Yeah, Nick Kelly currently holds a really good advantage in the competition, but it's not done yet. The championship absolutely alive heading into this final race of the 2018 season. Kelly does lead the competition with 795 points. The man directly behind him in the KFC Audi, he's hungry for a good result here. He's on 736 points. So he'll be doing all he can to find a way through that Industry Audi and then pull a couple of car lengths clear and try and put some distance between he and Nick Kelly. Kelly, though, it's all in his favour at the moment. He just needs to keep going. But we've got 47 minutes, 47 laps. It'll be a long time around Winton. 47 minutes remaining in this 50-minute race.
It's a lot of times around the closeline, thanks Dick Johnson, isn't it? Remember that comment?
Yeah.
It's like racing around the closeline in the backyard. That was on the old shorter track too, the 2K track back then in the Group A days that DJ made that statement about Winton. But these days, with the extension, not such a Mickey Mouse track now. Serious action attraction, as they call it locally here. But Matt Stupas, who, well, in fact, a couple of years ago now, a car of very similar colours to what Nick Kelly's were in the qualifying session at Queensland Raceway, came together at high speed up the back straight. There was misjudgment there, and a couple of Audi R8s were all but destroyed in that qualifying session, and that wasn't that car, but it was the car of Travis Bainon that was racing in this series back a couple of years ago, and really destroyed both their cars. Looking not to do that here this weekend. Of course, the predominantly black KFC car used to run a predominantly white car. Obviously, the branding staying in the red with the white background, but car in front, gold with black at your request, I'm sure, in the JPS colours, famous by your Team Lotus.
I did prefer the green and yellow, perhaps with a blue helmet with a little white visor on, Jim Clark-esque, perhaps.
I like where you're going. Yeah. All class, Matt Kosh. Yeah. All class.
Meanwhile, though, the two Audis, we said it to take a lap or two for them to really get in the butter zone. They are now starting to close up on the back of Dave Stevens. So second, third, and fourth, really running closely together. Scott Taylor's the better part of a second up the road. He's not too far away himself, though. So the first 4 cars out on track, separated by 1.7 seconds. So it's all really tight at the front of this motor race.
So those Audis starting to come up. In fact, now Matt Stupas is arranging right up into the back of Nick Kelly, just about sitting under that rear wing, centre mounted over top of wing mount, as the Audis have been running for quite some time now, away from the traditional type mount that we see that the Porsche and the Ferrari ahead have, the under mount over the back of the car. Something that came out of DTM many years ago, the duckbill type mounting rear wing, the mount over the top of the wing.
That's just basically designed to clean up the underside of the rear spoiler, because that's what develops your downforce. It's not that the airflow over the top of the wing pushes the car down. It's actually a suction underneath the wing that generates a downforce. So if you clear up that surface, you do get better downforce.
More surface area too, not taken up by mounts. So it's, it is a technical thing, but works very, very well. In fact, the years that we've been seeing these R8s in all their iterations and models, they've been a very, very winning and effective car in the Australian GT scene and in the world. Probably more so in Australia. In the world, we've seen some domination by the M6 that we see Stephen Richards running in the GT Championship here in Australia, and haven't quite seen the domination in Australia the BMW has seen, but certainly the Mercedes is mimicking what's going on internationally.
Well, to give you an idea of how successful Audi's been in Australia, it only took its first win in 2011. It's now got 38 to its name in Australian GT competitions, as you see. Stupas just have a little bit of a look at Nick Kelly. So, yeah, 38 wins to Audi's name. The most winningest brand in Australian GT history is Porsche with 43. So it's nearly one of the most successful brand in Australian GT history. So it only needs a couple more wins.
And Porsche have been in it for substantially more years too.
Yeah, they've been there since the start. They've had a couple of lean spells there, 2014, 15 and 16. They didn't win a race, but you know, basically from 2005 onwards, they've been in Australian GT competition. So they had, you know, the better part of 6 years head start on the Audi. And the German mark is, well, the German marks are dominating the competition, because Mercedes is also got 30 years.
Yeah, and a lot of those with Peter Hackett at the wheel there as well. I think it was Bryce Washington right back in 05 in the Porsche that did a tremendous job. It doesn't seem that long ago in the big scheme of things, but in GT form, you look at a Porsche that was winning GT races in 2005 and the Porsche now, they're a completely different, well, not completely, but a vastly different beast.
It's like watching a Porsche 911 GT3R versus a Porsche 944, really.
Very similar, very, very similar. And the intricacies of tuning these cars as well has changed quite a lot. You and I were extremely lucky and positioned at Sandown to see the Walkinshaw team go to work on a brand new Evolution rear wing, and it was literally handbook out. And how does this work? And it was adjusted nicely, and it was only moments later that Liam Talbot went and put it on pole. John Martin went and put it on pole position for the race. So it's that evolution that Porsche just keep ticking those boxes. They get a wish list, they fulfill the wish list, and then send it to their customers.
Yep, there's a new Porsche 911 GT3R out for next year as well, along with the new Aston Martin GT3 and a bunch of other cars. A new Audi R8 iteration coming out with an Evo pack for their cars. So lots happening in the GT3 space globally. We'll see some of those cars coming to Australia. We are expecting to see a brand new Aston Martin GT3 in the Australian GT Championship next year. But here we are looking at the older spec machines. Australian GT Trophy Series. Now, where's Nick Kelly gone?
The Morris Finance leaderboard on screen now. Car number 222, the Porsche, leading the way with Scotty Taylor at the wheel. The Ferrari 458 GT3 of Dave Stevens in P2. The Audi R8 LMS Ultra in third and fourth there of now Matt Stupas has gone through on Nick Kelly. So that is, well, championship affecting, not changing, but championship affecting position change in this race.
Yeah, so Nick Kelly now sitting in 4th place. He's a couple of seconds off the back of the leading trio, just coming into screen there. So head around the old trees down there and up around through turn 9 towards the, it's a little bit more than 90-degree left-hander at turn 10.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a switchback than that, isn't it? Yeah, certainly the cars come in, it's around about 100 degrees, I guess. Sorry, about 80 degrees. I guess that it goes through. These are 2 definite 90-degree corners, 11 and 12. We come on to the start-finish straight and have a look at Matt Stupas. He is lining up Dave Stevens for another manoeuvre as we go back to that start line. Clean off the start. Dave Stevens managed to take full advantage of his second row grid spot. Followed the leader through, got up on the ripple strip a bit there, upset the Ferrari initially, but it was more Nick Kelly that bobbled himself right on the apex there, sort of hauled the car up a little bit, a lot of brake there, so he didn't head over the top of the ripple strip and basically tear the bottom of his Audi out as he did that, and that was how the first lap, or first couple of corners transpired. Scotty Taylor has remained in the lead since then. But now we're starting to see some pressure from Matt Stupas, who is currently running second in the championship. He's a little bit distant on the points, but he certainly, if he can win this race and Nick Kelly doesn't consolidate, he can certainly put himself right back into contention. At the moment, Nick Kelly's just dropped that spot back into P4 at 4 seconds back there on the Morris Finance leaderboard, and
he'll have
gets
that one.
Gets through. Snuck that one right through, didn't he? A nice job there, Matt Stupas.
Yeah, the only way that could be sneakier was if he was wearing black.
Stealth, backstage crew style, eh? Ninja style.
Yeah, caught Dave Stevens unaware there, snuck through at turn 10, took second place from the Ferrari. So Scott Taylor now leads from Matt Stupas. Late move, good on the brakes,
and
good awareness.
But Dave Stevens just avoided any further terminal damage, you'd have to suggest. But a very Matt Stupas kind of move. A dive bomb down the inside. Here I come, whether you like it or not. And Scotty Taylor, I dare say, won't stand for that. He'll probably fill the track in front of him and not give Matt Stupas too many options. He's going to have to work hard on the back of this Porsche to get through. But he's certainly giving his title hunt every opportunity. If he can lead and win this race, he's done everything he physically can to claw back any advantage that Nick Kelly has. Nick Kelly's back in 4th.
And we saw Matt Stupas really quick in the first half of this morning's race, and then had a slipping clutch. It was costing him almost a second a lap in the latter stages, and that dropped him down the order a little bit. So Matt Stupas looking to make amends for the disappointment of the earlier race today, now starting to apply the pressure to the back of Scott Taylor in the Porsche 911 GT3R, the Scott Taylor Motorsport car. So good on the brakes is Matt Stupas, isn't he?
Yeah, well, we saw him perfect that move on Dave Stevens under brakes. It was the big run down into turn 10. Let's see as they now charge down into turn 1. He's too far away. In fact, the Porsche's pulling a gap in the straight line on him there. So the flat 6 over the V10, and he's doing a tremendous job. 4 litre driving away in the 222, and they get down into turn 3 and 4 now. The Porsche still looks quite poised, and Scotty Taylor really relishing his move into the GT Trophy class. And I dare say he's enjoyed this weekend that much. So we'll probably see him do some more trophy racing again next year. Keeping himself well lubricated, I guess, for the GT Championship racing as well. It's always very important to get as much racing in as you possibly can. We see the young blokes do it, so why shouldn't some of the more experienced campaigners try and get as many laps as they possibly can as well? Stupas now, you'd have to say, poised to take the lead of this race. It's not going to happen easily in this big, wide, matte black Porsche.
Certainly looks like he's got the speed on Scott Taylor at the moment, doesn't it? Particularly around the 789 complex. And under brakes, is just eating into the advantage of Scott Taylor every time. But then the rear engine Porsche just gets down and boogies out of the slower speed corners. The Audi just can't live with it.
This is where Scotty Taylor drives away this straight line. You know, Stupas is definitely in the slipstream there. You can take advantage of that, but the power of the Porsche in a straight line is just phenomenal. 6-cylinder, V10, 4 litres and 5 litres, and watch out coming up behind, because Dave Stevens would really like to take P2 back, and he's in a position to do so. Nick Kelly's actually starting to push a little bit harder again now. In fact, he's done his fastest lap of the race that last lap around, so bridging that gap. I wonder if Nick was trying to push the cold tyre too much and set the car to come on later on and just went, right, we have to get out of it. Or the team actually said, hey, Nick, you need to just ease off. Let's get those tyres up to temp before you push too hard and get some cold tyre graining. And once that happens, you're done. But the Porsche and the Ferrari were supreme on the cold tyre, weren't they?
They really were. Matt Stupas now shaping up for a move on Scott Taylor. Scott sees him coming, leaves the door open. Tries to do the over and under. He's going to be on the outside as they head down towards the penultimate corner. Stupas on the inside should by rights hold on to that spot. So good on the brakes though.
Morris Finance leaderboard sees, well, Scott Taylor back into P2. Swap those first two. Dave Stevens in third, and then Nick Kelly in fourth. Big thanks to Morris Finance for all their assistance. Of course, the Morris Finance Driver Lounge is a big part of the Shannons Nationals these days as well. There it is. If you're looking for your favourite brand, it's Audi, Porsche, Ferrari, Audi out in front in the 34th minute of the Australian GT Trophy race. Matt Stupas leads the way on lap 11. And Scotty Taylor looking as though he doesn't have the answer for the pace that Matt Stupas is piling on now. Not setting faster sectors at all, but he's certainly driving away and a lot faster than the Scotty Taylor Porsche is at the moment. Ferrari right up the back now of Scotty Taylor, so this is reminiscent in second and third of the opening sort of 5 or 6 laps of the race, as Stupas really has just put his head down and said, right, I'm going to give myself the very, very best chance of winning this title, and being where he is right now is the position to be. But Nick Kelly sitting in fourth. Is certainly the swings and roundabouts of motor racing are not going to head his way.
He's really cranking up the pressure. Is Matt Stupas on Nick Kelly at the moment. So race leader Matt Stupas, live championship points for you. He'll end this race with 836 points. Nick Kelly, where he is, will end the race with 860. So at the end of the year, as things stand, Nick Kelly would win the championship by 24 points.
It's a slim margin when you're talking an entire season, and it's 800 points that have been taken, isn't it?
So next to nothing in it. This is what Matt Stupas though really needs to do. Just get out front and scamper clear. Just turn the wick up on Nick Kelly. Just play with his head a little bit. It's all you can really do. Matt Stupas can't do anything other than go out and win this race and hope something happens to Kelly.
He's given himself the absolute opportunity that if there is something that transpires, safety cars or incidents of any description, he's given himself the ultimate chance to take the title. It does rely heavily on someone else not getting through to the end of this race. Scott Taylor Motorsport Porsche, the GT3R, the big haunches, the menacing looking front, and those big vents, the big red painted vents on the front wheels, getting all of that air pressure that gets up inside the front guards out. And very, very effective aerodynamic device that. Lots of tabs and winglets. In fact, one of the busiest cars in Australian GT as far as that's concerned, and when you look at the back of it, is the Lamborghini Huracan. Yeah. It has got so many air correcting devices off the back of it, and when anything goes into the back of those things, you see the owners of the cars just wincing, because each one of those items is a part number on its own. Yeah.
So much carbon fibre in these cars. Nothing is cheap to repair. Makes you...
Which I guess is again, that's another thing in motorsport. The really good thing about the worldwide effect of GT3 racing is that the manufacturer's involved. So you go to the parts catalogue, you pick out the part number and you order the part. You don't have to have a whole fabrication department in the background with a TIG welder and with a composites department and all of those different bits and pieces to make sure you keep going. Yes, it's going to come on air freight, and yes, it's going to cost some money, but it's something the manufacturer is building for you, which is, if for mine, the real beauty of GT3 racing.
Yeah, it means that what you've got is identical to the guy next to you and identical to the guy next to him.
As long as they're all in Porsches or Audis or Lambos or whatever.
And then the balanced performance presents exactly what we're seeing here. The Porsche is strong out of the slower speed corners and has the straight line speed over the Audi. But the Audi we've seen already in this race is so much better under brakes. So each car has its own personality, its own strengths and weaknesses. They're not homologated to the point where they're all the same. Correct.
Yeah, and they all see it. Also part of the budget on the GT3 programs with these companies as well. Now they look to the marketing department and say, hey, you got to throw some money into this because you're going to get an advantage out of it as well. And we just see that Brennan IT Ferrari doing a very, very strong job. Dave Stevens, who coming into this weekend was very, very strong in the championship, but as a result of yesterday's qualifying, failed out of it, and we're going to take a short break in the live streaming for just a few moments. So, Australian GT Trophy race now, 30 minutes done and dusted. So, just beyond halfway, the compulsory pit stop window is now open. So earlier today we saw pretty much everyone dive into the lane early, do some tyre pressure adjustments and get them back into that operating window because they tend to start to get quite warm and they do get over pressurised during the race. So the teams you'll see come along with the tyre pressure gauge, bleed a little bit of air out depending on what they've started the race with. And I believe that the Audis might have started off with the pressure that is going to come on better towards the end of the race. But this normalisation or adjustment phase that they can do in the pits, as we see Nick Kelly dive to the pits. So championship leader, he takes his opportunity to go to the pits. And maybe Nick Kelly has started with a different tyre pressure, and that's why he hasn't been able to match the pace out in front with Scotty Taylor. Has pretty much waved goodbye to Matt Stupas. He's now essentially 4 seconds out in front in the KFC Audi. There's our race leader, the Audi R8 LMS, Oris switch watches on the side, and of course industry clothes, Nick Kelly's very own company. And just looking to be the team member, we're looking at ride height there as well, or was it just the pressure gauge? Very, very well drilled, aren't they, Matt? These guys, there's absolutely no haste to this. They just go about it.
Yeah, plenty of time for them to service the car and do what they need to. They can change tyres if they so desire. As we see the Seidler Porsche Seidler in the lane. He'll hand that car over to Luke Seidler. There's plenty of time to get the service done nice and safely. No need to rush. Sports car racing, one of the reasons we've got the compulsory pit stop and the minimum stationary time is for safety in pit lane. We see a little bit of damage there to the
crinkle on the carbon wrap.
As Homer Simpson would say, speed holes.
There we go. Nick Kelly leaving the lane for the final time in his 2018 GT Trophy Series Assault. Will he return to the lane, the champion for 2018? The weight of numbers says so, but the weight of race distance to go, whether it be 1 lap or 20, he's still got to get the car through to the end of the race. He's dropped off the lead lap as a result of going to the lane and rejoins in behind. So he's going to give himself a really good chance to be right in contention once the field has been through the lane. Everyone still has to come to the lane.
How's the pace about Stupas though out front? He's now 5.8 seconds clear of the Scott Taylor and Dave Stevens battle for second place. So he's just cleared out, having taken the lead a few laps ago.
And setting his fastest lap on that last lap of the race as well. So he's got a good car under him, and he's pushed on nicely. You wouldn't have thought so in the first half a dozen laps that that Matt Stupas had a car that was going to get through into the lead of this race. That's quite a fair old whack on the back there. I wonder if that's something that may have occurred in the lane or something, because he came off the back of the grid, didn't really get mixed up in any of that first couple of corners of the race. It's really distinctly different, isn't it? The 911 Cup car versus the GT3R. Quite a smooth, aerodynamic looking Cup car, and the very aggressive GT3R. Kind of like both, actually. I wouldn't mind either one in the shed.
Yeah, I guess I'd take a 911 if I had to. There is.
I guess I'd take the 2019 version of the GT3 one as well.
Yeah, that'd do. That'd do.
And else the second-hand stuff.
Scott Taylor in the lane, so too. Dave Stevens receiving service, so only Matt Stupas and Rio Nagara out on track yet to take their medicine. They must take a pit stop.
Scotty Taylor, big thumbs up to the camera there. He's very happy indeed. Big, happy thumbs up. Good to go. So just waiting for that to count down. Big welcome back. Our live stream running nicely there. You'll see Scotty Taylor has gone to the lane, now sees himself in position 3 in this race. And Scott Taylor has been in to take his compulsory pit stop, as has Dave Stevens, Nick Kelly, Luke and Chris Seidler. So our race leader Matt Stupas yet to take that pit stop as Taylor leaves the lane. And currently in P2, Rio Nagaro. Stupas gets into the lane just as we say that, but now it's Rio Nagaro, the only one left to take the stop. The Audi Customer Sport team going to work there.
Just checking pressures on the front and rear tyres. Bleeding off a pound or two, you'd think.
Yep, absolutely. They'd certainly be looking at bringing them down just a tad. Australian GT Trophy race, still 24 minutes left to go. And just wait and see where that Stupas rejoins this field. There's Rio Nagara. Tough weekend in the Eat Furniture HSY auto parts car. Good to see HSY getting involved with Australian motorsport. They're new to the aftermarket. Really good company to deal with if you're in the European car sector, aftermarket, looking for parts and things like that. Certainly got a very aggressive approach to looking after the European branded product, and they've got a strong association with MPC as well, because we see Ash Samadi running the GT Championship with HSY, and really good group of people to deal with on a day-to-day basis if you're in the European aftermarket, let's say automotive repair and panel repair, tools, etc. Check them out. As we see Dave Stevens now in the lead of the race. Matt Stupas emerges from the pits. And Dave Stevens holds on to the lead. And Matt Stupas does hold on to second place. So the Porsche of Taylor, which we're looking at now, heading around through the sweeper and up into Penrite. He's currently third. Rio Nagara and Nick Kelly's just about to take Rio Nagara as he has emerged from the pits. Scotty Taylor bobbling his way around through, comes around 9, starts off the run down to 10. There's the back of the battle with Taylor and Rio Nagara. This is for 4th on the road. HSY Eat Furniture car and the Industry R8 LMS Ultra. Both the same. Of course, the Trophy Series running the oldest series of GT3 car. They were cut off, what, 2013 or?
Yeah,
2013.
2013. So the Mercedes SLS is eligible. All sorts of, there's a load of cars in Australia in sheds that are eligible to run in this series. Aston Martin Vantages and all sorts of things.
Gee, the SLS was the birth of something great for Mercedes in GT racing, wasn't it?
Yeah, revolutionary car, that one.
Absolutely. Peter Hackett used it to great effect when he was driving for the Erebus racing team, number 63.
Richard Muscat as well.
Yeah.
Jack LeBrock.
Jack LeBrock. I think his lap record still stands.
Phillip Island, yeah, it does, yeah.
Well, look at the bumps here at Winton, just wobbling the rear wings on these two Audi R8s. Rio Nagara, who doesn't seem to have had the pace here this weekend. He's had Nick Kelly behind him, who's had the pace all weekend, and he's running with him at the moment. But Dave Stevens has got the race lead. These two Audis glued together. They're 4th and 5th on the road. At the moment, it's still okay for Nick Kelly to finish in this place. The points he'll bring in, even if Matt Stupas does get back into the lead of the race, will be plenty enough for him to take out the title. So in the back of Nick Kelly's mind all the way along, just remember he's got Barton Moore calling the shots for him back down there in pit lane as well. Very experienced open-wheeler racer and GT racer, radical racer. And a real cool customer is Barton Moore. Exceptionally funny sense of humour. But certainly when it's race time, the visor goes down and he becomes a racer himself. So he'll be calling the shots and he'll be saying, let's look after this title, let's bring it home. We all want to take the big trophy home at the end of this weekend, and that is what he is trying to achieve for his charger, Nick Kelly.
Yeah, there's no drama in sitting in behind Rio Nagara. All Nick Kelly needs to really do is see the checkered flag as they stand. He'll end the season with 858 points. Matt Stupas, who's currently sitting in second, 4.8 seconds off the race lead, will finish the year on 824 points. So Nick Kelly at this point is in the driver's seat in terms of...
As long as Nick's circulating and finishing, he's safe, isn't he?
Yeah.
Get to 75% race distance and be still circulating.
He has to finish.
Yeah.
Have to finish. There's no 75% race distance in sports car. Has to see the checkered flag. And should he not, he gets no points. So he just has to sit out there. He can afford to sit in behind Rio Nagara for the next 20 minutes or so and just reach the checkered flag as we see the side of the group. Porsche, Luke Seidler have a spin at, what's that, turn 6?
Yeah, it's on the entry to Penrite there at the water tower. In fact, we've seen numerous Porsches go around there today in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge as well. And we saw Scotty Taylor spin after coming together in the earlier race today. Just a tad further around the corner there with his battle with Dave Stevens. And at the moment, Dave Stevens is leading that battle. In fact, leading the race. He's got a good 4.2 second lead. And both Stevens and Matt Stupas operating in the 121s, albeit Dave Stevens needs to get a bit more of a hurry on because Matt Stupas is coming at him in the closing 19 minutes, to be precise. 19 minutes and 5 seconds remain in the 2018 GT Trophy race. There's the spin now of Luke Seidler all by himself. Too sure, maybe you've locked up a re-up because that is where you start to turn in. All the weight transfers to the front because you're turning and braking at the same time and the car just looped around. And when one of these Porsches that have all their weight out over the back wheels start to go around and you get them at a certain angle, let's call it 45 degrees, they pirouette around after that. So we've got pit lane being covered by Cam Van Erken.
Guys, with the Australian production car race coming up a little later today, I thought it was a good opportunity to take you through what's going to happen in the pit stops. I've got a helper here. Greg Rust is going to be my car controller. We do have regulations around how many people can be out there. Greg, as car controller, is allowed out there. In fact, he's allowed out 1 lap before the car comes in. He can stay out at all times. We've got refuelling happening today. And instead of having a boom up over the top, you've got this rig here which allows 3 people during refueling. So when they stop, refueling must happen first. They'll come out here, put the fuel in. 3 people are allowed over the line to do that. The driver can change during that. Before you can touch the car, fuel has to come back in and cross this red line here. Then 3 people are allowed to go back out and work on that car. I haven't forgotten about Greg Rust because he's allowed to stay there throughout as our car controller, but he must be back behind the red line before the car leaves pit exit. Simple, Rusty?
Whatever happened to Rusty? He's a hand model now.
Thanks, Rusty. Back to you guys.
Well, there you go. Is that either a step up or a step down for Greg Rust? He's involved in teamwork now down there. Certainly right at the pressure point of the race. In any race is exactly what Greg Rust was doing there, being the car controller, because they're the ones that have to literally control the car. They have to make sure it's stopped for the time it has to be stopped, make sure the crew is clear before the driver's allowed to move. So very, very important job and can be quite high pressure too.
And often they're on the radio too, the drivers on the way in, making sure they've unbuckled the belts, unplugged their radio, all those sorts of things, and then they go through the reverse of that when the new driver gets in to do the radio check and all sorts of things. So often on the back of those lollipops, they'll have a script to read out basically to the driver, both incoming and outgoing.
Yeah, very important job there. And of course, all the crew that are going to be working in pit lane here this weekend, every single one of them has their job. They know their job, and that's what a race team is all about. Have the job that you've got to do and know what it is. And don't get involved in anyone else's part in the team unless you're called upon to do so. The Morris Finance leaderboard, with 16 minutes left to go, sees Dave Stevens have a lead in his Ferrari 458 of 2.28 seconds on the Morris Finance leaderboard. Matt Stupas in P2, a further 13 seconds back to Scott Taylor. And then Rio Nagaro, for the first time this weekend, running quite strongly in the top 4. Led the race briefly whilst everyone had pit stops. And there's the marks that are leading the way in the Morris Finance leaderboard. The Ferrari 458 over the Audi R8 LMS Ultra, Porsche GT3R, and then the number 188 Audi R8 LMS Ultra of Rio Nagaro. And it's Nick Kelly who's tucked in behind him with Luke Seidler, recovering from that spin up at Penrite Corner.
Dave Stevens is seeing his lead eroded at the moment by Matt Stupas in the KFC Audi. So to cruise up on the back of our race leader was 2.8 seconds not so long ago. It's now 1.3 seconds as we look a little bit further back down the road at Rio Nagaro, who's being shadowed at the moment by Nick Kelly. Industry Audi not doing anything to risk finishing this race. He can afford to sit there in 5th place. Just bank the points. It's like at university, P's mean degrees. In this case, 5th equates to a title.
It's any way to get you there, isn't it? That's P's get degrees. That's right. I like that analogy. I might use that later on in the day.
Never got my degree.
But if you did, P's would have got you there. That's exactly right. I get you. I hear where you're coming from. And I like it too. Here's Nick Kelly now. He's starting to draw alongside Rio Nagaro. Rio's going to get a bit racy with it and a bit defensive with it here. So Nick Kelly will go wide. He's lost a lot of ground in doing so. But avoided contact with, well, a bloke he shares a garage with. Essentially, these Audis are all lined up next to each other in the shed. And in fact, one of the really good GT photos of each and every round of the championship is the Audi garage with all the cars lined up perfectly next to each other, all those wings all sitting there. There's normally 6 of them or something like that, covered up with their black Audi covers. Yeah. Really, really strong image.
Another spin there for Luke Seidler, same place as earlier on as well. Tricky little corner, that one, isn't it? Because the car's loaded.
Because you come out of the sweeper and you're loaded going to the left, then the track rises and falls, and you've got to start braking at the same time as the car's getting light and you're changing steering angle. It's hard. You forgive them for going off there because it's very, very busy and you're going down through the gearbox. Which with these things, just a click of the fingers, but...
well, not in that car, it's not.
No, it's actually a gearbox car, right.
Yeah. So this is our lead battle. Dave Stevens and Matt Stupas locked together now, 1 and 2, less than half a second between the two. Ferrari from Audi. Dave Stevens has led since the pit stop sequence concluded. Matt Stupas was our race leader heading into that portion of the race. Since clawed his way back up towards our race leader to make for this battle. Matt Stupas, he needs all the points he can get. The more points he can score, the more pressure that mounts on Nick Kelly. We saw him getting a little bit frustrated in behind Rio Nagaro. So Matt Stupas has a look underneath Dave Stevens. Just closes the door, can't find a way through there. This one you feel is just starting to hot up a little bit.
Yeah, well, I guess Matt Stupas just wants to give himself that every chance, doesn't he? And getting on through here is what it's all about. And Dave Stevens doesn't want to lose the spot. He wants to take a victory as well. He might not be taking the championship, but if you can take a victory away, you leave the weekend with a real spring in your step. You get the feeling that Matt Stupas has got more under him at the moment and is going to continue to pressure for the next 12 minutes until he can get through.
Yeah, Dave Stevens just took a narrow line in towards the 789 complex as well, just to cover off that opportunity for Matt Stupas to dive underneath. He's also sitting mid-track as they approach the penultimate corner. Again, just trying to scare Matt Stupas out of having a look. Stupas, though, unperturbed by that, sticks the nose down the inside anyway. Green endurance lights ablaze on the front of the KFC Audi. He's a real street fighter of a racer is Matt Stupas.
Very good description. Very good description. Leaves no quarter, that's for sure. Comes to the races to go racing.
Doesn't ask for a quarter, doesn't give any in return either. Leaves nothing on the table.
Get the feeling that Dave Stevens responding to that too, actually.
Yeah.
He's feeling the pressure and going, right, oh, well, I know what you're about. But, I'm leading the race and I don't have to give it up to anyone unless you want to get through. You're going to have to try harder. So Dave Stevens is currently leading the way. We can see the gap to second place of Matt Stupas. Then Scotty Taylor, some 15, 16 seconds back to Rio Nagaro. Nick Kelly really getting out the checklist of laps and just ticking them off, keeping the Audi going, staying out of trouble, enjoying the race from I guess a perspective that no one else in the field has got the luxury to do at the moment.
Just 10.5 minutes before he should be crowned the title winner for 2018, but he's got to see the flag. If he doesn't see the flag, it could well go in favour of Matt Stupas. Still just tucked up in behind Dave Stevens. Again, he's so good on the brakes versus those around him, but there's just no way through. Dave Stevens is positioning that Ferrari 458 brilliantly. Just doing everything he needs to do at the moment to maintain top spot. He's gone defensive now into 1 and 2. That'll compromise his exit. Might now give Matt Stupas a look up towards turn 3. He's got a good run through 2. Pulls out. He's going up the inside down at 3. Now he's width in there. Can now Stevens do the over and under? No, Matt Stupas takes the lead.
Good move there. He set that up once he saw Dave Stevens put the 2 left-hand wheels out onto the ripple strip of turn 1. It slowed him up, and then Dave Stevens didn't have the flow that Matt Stupas did. He pulled out, just cresting the hill underneath the gantry at the old start line here at Winton Motor Raceway, and through he went. Dave Stevens saw it coming. He realised that he'd set that up for Matt Stupas to come through with the way he mucked around at turn 1 over the ripple strip. All right for some of the bigger saloon cars to get involved in the ripple strips here at Winton Motor Raceway, or in fact pretty much any circuit. But GT cars, they just don't respond to being bumped around. They'll certainly respond to someone getting muscly with them at the wheel, but pounding over curbs is not what the GT3 cars are really strong at.
No, it just disturbs all the aero gains that they make. These cars produce the best downforce when they've got the belly of the car basically perpendicular to the ground.
Parallel to the ground, yeah. They use
yeah.
the air underneath the car
Yeah.
as well as over the top. In fact, they use it underneath the car a lot more effectively than over the top of the car. Very much something that they've learnt out of Formula racing.
Yeah, as soon as you start climbing over the curb, you disrupt that. Start putting some yaw and all sorts of stuff into the car, and that changes the balance. You then get some chatter through the suspension as the tyres struggle to deal with the car bouncing around. These cars are comparatively stiffly sprung, certainly compared to something like a supercar where we see them mounting curves and putting 2 wheels in the air, particularly somewhere like
Going off curbs, all sorts of things, yeah. That doesn't reward a GT3 driver to do that, that's for sure. They stay within the confines of those white lines, try not to get onto the stripy red and white ones, that's for sure. As Matt Stupas again back out in front, giving himself every opportunity if something untoward happens within this race that he could take the title. He's really acquitting himself very nicely indeed now. This is good presence of mind to try and keep pushing to the front, get to the front, and then if something goes awry within the field, you're in the box seat to take the maximum points. I don't actually see it happening. It's just something that as a driver, he needs to do, and he needs to lead this race all the way to the very end.
Yeah, he's got to maximise his opportunity to taste the champagne at the end of the season.
Well, he gets a race win. That's another good thing as well.
Yeah.
A race win is always something that gives the driver a spring in their step, the confidence, I guess, to leave the 2018 season and go and do maybe the Q1 hour at Island Magic or something like that to keep your hand in, and then emerge again in next year's trophy hunt for the Australian GT Trophy Series.
So Matt Stupas has a 1.7 second lead now over Dave Stevens. Scott Taylor sitting in third, some 17.5 seconds further back. Rio Nagara in fourth. Tucked up behind him is Nick Kelly. He's just dropped a little bit back from Rio Nagara, so he's just perhaps decided that caution is a better part of valour. Some 4 seconds between Nick Kelly and Rio Nagara now, so Matt Stuper, so he's not scampering clear as quickly as I thought he might. The way he cruised up to Dave Stevens and then monstered the back of that Ferrari for a handful of laps before eventually finding his way through. I thought that he might scamper clear in that KFC Audi. Dave Stevens in the Brennan IT Ferrari has hung on admirably. Certainly keeping the race leader honest. If Matt Stupas makes a mistake, then Dave Stevens is there ready to pounce.
Yeah, that's, I guess, his job now is to be there if something goes wrong with the 23 Audi there, out in front, the KFC car. If something does go wrong there, then Dave Stevens needs to be ready to inherit the lead. Again, I don't think it's going to happen because Matt Stupas has got a really strong car underneath him. In fact, I think if Matt had have had the car that's underneath him right now all year, it may have been a different end result.
Yeah, and there's no traffic even up the road, so it's not likely that they're going to catch that either.
Which I guess was a feature of the Sydney Motorsport Park round as well, because it was run within the Australian GT Championship race. There was a lot more cars on track. Admittedly, a track with nearly twice the length of this one, but certainly there was more than 6 or 7 cars on the track at Sydney Motorsport Park, so the game within the game had to contend with a lot more other inputs into that race with the Australian GT Championship cars on track racing all at the same time. The Morris Finance leaderboard sees the Audi R8 LMS leading by 1.5 seconds over the Ferrari 458 GT3 with Dave Stevens at the wheel. Porsche GT3R, some 17 seconds back. This car on screen now, the Scotty Taylor Motorsport. Very aggressive looking GT car. Purposeful in its stance, aggressive in its look. And down into turn 1, back down through the gearbox in the 222 car. Runs wide, out, right up to the edge of the ripple strip there, stays off it. A little bit of a pinch up of the brakes into turn 3. He's our race leader with 4 minutes left to go in this entire championship. Matt Stupas is leading the way, but it's Nick Kelly hanging on to the points lead. And Matt Stupas really giving himself and the team every opportunity to pull off, I guess, a dark horse victory if something happens down there to Nick Kelly. There goes Dave Stevens, not relinquishing his spot in second place. So a podium for him. It'd be really cool to see the Brennan IT racer Dave Stevens jump up on the podium for this race, albeit I think he finishes 4th in the Australian GT Trophy points hunt in the Morris Finance leaderboard for this race, with Matt Stupas leading the way, 2.3 seconds clear of Dave Stevens in that aforementioned Ferrari. Scotty Taylor in the Porsche and Rio Nagaro into the 5 here this afternoon, the first time this weekend in qualifying practice or the race 1 this morning. Good to see Rio back on track. And then it's Nick Kelly to Luke Seidler on the Morris Finance leaderboard. We thank Morris Finance, as we do to Shannons Insurance every time we go racing. 2 minutes left to go for the Australian GT Trophy race, and Dave Stevens goes round at the sweeper, and that could have been pretty nasty because he's just bounced back on over the ripple strip, grabs a cog and drives away from the dust and debris he's left on the track behind him. But wow, that was all of his own doing, because he was chasing down Matt Stupas and Scotty Taylor was a fair old way behind him. In fact, Scotty Taylor's still behind him because he's got Rio Nagaro right up behind him. So the Ferrari drives on, and let's hope there's no damage there. He's certainly flicking some stones and stuff out of the car. Here it is, wide, got out in the marbles, and just about, that could have ended up fairly nasty there. Rode up, bottomed out, skated across the top of the ripple strip and dispatched him off into the grass there. Once he got into the grass, and he was well around, just a matter of trying to haul that car up.
It reminds me of the penguins of Madagascar. Just smile and wave, boys.
Nothing happened.
The left front up in the air, just waving to everyone.
Nothing to look at. Nothing to look at on this Father's Day.
Speaking to Dave Stevens earlier on, he was actually saying that he's found a new way to go through the sweeper where it doesn't break. He just basically lifts off the throttle and lets the aero wash, slow the car down. He's been doing that all day long.
In fact, that actually looked like he had aero wash then. It just looked as though the car really let go on him. He was wide, and it just continued to get wider no matter what he was trying to do at the wheel. So that plan had worked for, I'm going to say, all but the last minute and 30 seconds of the racing for the season. And here we have Rio Nagaro now onto the back of Scott Taylor as Rio Nagaro got his sights set on a podium for the last race for the weekend and the series. I'd say yes.
Yeah, he's pretty motivated, is Rio. He's had a good weekend. He didn't have the pace to start with, but all weekend he's just been chipping away, chipping away. His pace is now, he's got the best lap of the race.
Yes, too.
That's incredible.
Look at that. It's come to him right at the end of the day. Well done, Rio. Well done, the guys down at Audi Custom Sport. They've obviously made some adjustments for Rio in the HSY Eat Furniture R8. And they're going to get around for another lap with 22 seconds left in this race. So Rio could get himself really up on the wheel and push hard on the back of Scotty Taylor for the last lap of the Australian GT Trophy Series. See if he can get himself up onto the back of the guy that won the race this morning in his debut in the Australian GT Trophy Series. What's Rio Nagaro got? What's Matt Stupas got out in front? There he is in the number 23 KFC car. And Dave Stevens, even though he had what could have been a horrible off, he maintains his spot in second place. And Matt Stupas is now 12 seconds clear of Dave Stevens. Nick Kelly just lurking almost in the shadows.
So Matt Stupas 3 corners now from home. We are on the final lap of the 2018 CAMS Australian GT Trophy Series. Just 2 more corners for Matt Stupas to take what looks like it's going to be a race win here ahead of Dave Stevens. He's been the class of the field all race long, took the lead early on and lost it through the pit stops, but reclaimed it a couple of laps ago, and he's pulled clear ever since. So Matt Stupas does what he needs to do to win the final race of the Australian GT Trophy Series campaign. We now look a little bit further back down the road to see where Nick Kelly comes home.
Here comes Scotty Taylor to the line now. Dave Stevens got home in second place. Big congratulations to Dave and Scotty Taylor. What a really good debut in the Trophy Series, albeit that he's a main game GT Championship racer. And Rio Nagaro found his mojo towards the end of the weekend, getting home in P4. Great run there. So the results are Matt Stupas got the victory there in the Audi R8, as opposed to what we're seeing on the live streaming now, but certainly Dave Stevens got home in second place there. Scotty Taylor in the 222 Porsche home there very nicely. Rio Nagaro in the Audi, and Nick Kelly coming home there in fourth place.